Let's explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russia,
Russia, Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wednesday night edition of the Devolution Power Hour. Oh, man, this is a rough start.
Yeah, Jesus.
Already. Hold on, let's do this over again. Hold on. Be right back, everybody. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. As always, and unfortunately, I am joined by Bernie Bright. Bernie Bright, how are you doing, sir? They're much better. I feel better now.
Yeah, I guess I'm fine.
I don't know what we're going to talk about tonight. It's kind of a boring news week.
There is almost so much that there's not enough.
Yeah, it's weird. But we are going to be joined 2 nights in a row. We went almost 2 years, I think, without having CanCon on the show. We were doing well.
Again. Yeah, we'll again.
Hopefully we'll get to a time where we can go another 2-year stretch. But we're having him back on tonight to talk about a specific story that's out there regarding
that he shamelessly stole from Newsmax, I think.
No, well, that's a different story. We'll probably talk about both stories.
Okay.
But there's multiple stories we're going to get his insight on.
Right.
Ash says we both look like we need more beard oil. I mean, maybe you.
I literally beard oiled right before the show, about an hour before the show.
No, what you need is the brush, man. You need to get that thing under control.
I got an email notification a few hours ago that a brush is en route to my house.
Nice.
So somebody is sending me one.
Yes, that would probably be Ash.
Probably, yeah.
Take a hint.
Yeah.
But anyway,
some point I will trim my beard, but I don't know when I'm going to get the time to do that. Especially with Mrs. Bright wild and out around town, leaving me as a single father.
Is she not there right now?
Show. She is now. My son's not just off by himself.
Hey man, I had to do that for a while. Put my kids to bed and come down and do my show.
I know what it's like now.
A while.
I didn't know what it's like because I thought I had a wife and a dutiful mom, and she was wilding out tonight. So me and Baby Bright were hanging out. We were jamming. Actually, Zach got us a DJ table. Zach got Baby Bright a DJ table because he's big into music. So we were jamming out to that.
Wow.
But that was my show prep.
Well, that sounds fun. Well, don't worry. We got the show covered for you. We're going to bring CanCon on here in a second. I just want to get a quick word from our sponsors. We got a couple of them tonight. First up, we have Patriot Protect. These guys are new to the show. Great product here. Great idea. Today, it's scarily easy for criminals, scammers, or anyone with bad intentions to find your personal information online. Your home address, phone number, workplace, even your family members' names are exposed with just a few clicks. When this much information is public, scams aren't random. Hundreds of people search sites and data brokers compile profiles linking your name, address, phone number, relatives, and online behavior. Scammers use these profiles to decide who to target and how to approach them. That's how identity fraud starts, long before the damage shows up. And honestly, guys, in the InfoWar community, these websites can be used to dig into people and do research on. This is actually how we found out that one of our competitors is owned by a Jew. What? Super random side note. But anyway,
I was muted. I was laughing about that.
Oh, were you? Dang it. I was wondering why. I'm surprised you didn't respond to that.
I said to myself while muted, that's putting it lightly what we found out. But yes. Very useful.
Had our competitors used Patriot Protect, we would not have found out that information.
Right.
And other information. Patriot Protect removes your personal data from the internet, wiping it from Google and every major website where bad actors or researchers can search for targets. Patriot Protect finds and deletes your personal information from 240 plus people search engines and data brokers. Once your profiles are eliminated, their search and destroy protocol runs continuous monitoring, so every new exposure is detected and wiped immediately. It's the peace of mind of having your own security team, all for about the cost of keeping your porch lights on. If you want to take control of your personal information and reduce your exposure, go to patriotprotect.com/DPH. Use the code Badlands for 15% off all Patriot Protect plans. Pretty good deal.
Yeah, don't use it until we're done digging on you.
Yeah,
so
if you're going to get it, let us know ahead of time.
Right, and who you are referencing, they did remove that information later on, but everybody know, people don't forget. People don't forget who owns your totally independent QAnon research media company. that definitely started organically and not
You've
as
said,
a
you've said too much, Bernie. Right?
All right.
Okay, let's bring on CanCon and we'll get into this, and then we'll get to our other sponsor a little bit later. CanCon, what's up, man?
What's going on, guys? Come here to slum it up with you guys again on another Wednesday night.
I feel honored.
Did the Panthers actually win?
Yeah, you guys came back. It was 4-2. You guys came back, tied it up, and then we finally went ahead 5-4.
Well, Brad Marchand, you're welcome once again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But it was Lundell coming back that really saved us tonight. I was supposed to go to the game, and I didn't because I stayed and worked.
I cannot believe the Bruins coughed up that other Florida game. We were up 5-1, I think, when I turned that off.
Mm-hmm.
And
we scored 3 in like 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, is what it is.
Florida isn't even a real hockey place. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Minnesota Wild are on fire, but let's not talk hockey. Let's talk election stuff. That's why we brought you here, okay, CanCon?
Okay.
Stop being ridiculous.
Shut up and dribble, CanCon.
I don't know how to start this. Do we want to start with the article, or do we want to start with Bitchfield stealing it? Or do we want to I don't know where we want to go here first.
Well, there's a lot of people out there that are citing this. John Basham just posted it up. Robert Gouvier's got a video out about it. A lot of people are catching on this, and they're giving credit, to be fair.
Yeah.
Credit.
Some are.
Some,
not all. Let's start with let's just get right into the story. How about this, CanCon? I'm going to pull it up, explain what happened. Go for it.
Yeah, so the grand jury transcripts from the grand jury used to, in the first time in our nation's history, indict a former president and a front-running candidate for president, was unsealed by a judge in Georgia this week, it was a couple weeks ago. It was like last month. But we're just now getting into these transcripts, and there was a shocking one that we uncovered, and former U.S. Senator David Perdue, a Georgia Republican that ran against John Ossoff in the 2020 election, was on the stand, being questioned in front of a special grand jury, no defense counsel to represent him by himself, by Nathan Wade. He was being questioned, interrogated, and something came up about the GBI and their investigations into the State Farm Arena, and to push back against Nathan Wade, David Perdue, Senator Perdue, said, I don't trust the GBI. Well, why don't you trust the GBI? Well, because the director of the GBI called me to tell me that they were not going to investigate specific claims of election fraud that were presented to Vic Reynolds, the then director of the GBI, saying that he's a team player. That was his literal words, according to David Perdue. I am a team player. If the governor, meaning Brian Kemp, does not want me to investigate, does not want us to investigate, we are not going to investigate. And shocking to me, I thought, our bureaucrats and elected officials are supposed to be team players for America and for Georgia, not for individuals at the top of the executive branch in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty damning thing. And it's really the theme that, the 2020 election, there's so much irregularity, so much BS that happened. And everybody always says oh yeah, there's 60 some court cases, not a single one got through. Well, we never saw the evidence, and the evidence that was out there, it turns out that in many instances, it wasn't even actually investigated. And this article left me with a couple questions, and we didn't put them directly in the article, but I'm still very curious. Why would Brian Kemp not want to investigate compelling evidence if it was actually compelling? It's a no-brainer. And then 2, was this team playerness of Reynolds in any way tied to him getting that judgeship in Cobb County?
Well, I'll answer the former question first about the judgeship. And again, all I can do is both questions. All we can do really is speculate. But the speculation, you're seeing a pattern emerge with Brian Kemp. And we talked about this. The three of us actually talked about this, working on buttoning up the article. Brian Kemp has done this before with 2 other judges, including the judge who unsealed these transcripts. Now, people think, he's the one that unsealed this. So, clearly he's not, like that. There's going to be hundreds of these transcripts that are going to come out. Maybe not hundreds, but at least dozens of these transcripts that are going to come out. So to think that, he specifically knew that this was in there somewhere. He was not the judge that presided over this grand jury. That was Robert McBurney that presided over that grand jury. So Scott McAfee was the judge that presided over the case itself, the Fannie Willis case. So it's unclear whether or not he knew that David Perdue acknowledged that Governor Kemp forwarded an investigation into the 2020 election. But Scott McAfee was tasked with, by Evan Myers of Governor Kemp's deputy general counsel. He was tasked with kind of looking into some election fraud evidence that was presented to him. And when the evidence was presented and it was clean cut that Raffensperger lied to the American people and to the people of Georgia about something that he claimed he did, but he did not actually do, the judge the inspector general at the time wiped it away and made it go away, just ignored the guy that was bringing him the evidence. That's McAfee. He went on to get appointed to a Superior Court judgeship in Fulton County. The same guy that brought it to Scott McAfee as the inspector general also brought it to a district attorney in the Appalachian Circuit, and she went on to become a judge as well. And she also did the same thing, ignored the evidence when it was presented to her. So you've got 3 cases now where judges have been directly involved in election fraud investigations, and all 3 times they completely ghost the investigation and they go on to get a nice, cush judgeship in the Superior Court.
Crazy how that works.
This stuff is, I shouldn't say that these specific revelations, but that macro is certainly not shocking to anybody who believes that there's such a thing as election fraud or government corruption, right? But I do think it's worth amplifying that this is one of the reasons that people like Chris Paul, people like Jonathan Drake talk about appealing to the system to fix the system, right? Where it's like, okay, if your wildest dreams are correct, you, the general you, and the election was stolen, who do you think did that, right? It's kind of like, it's so simple, and yet it's like the final hurdle that I think the MAGA world, certainly the American people, but maybe before that, the MAGA world needs to get on board with, like, hey, who watches the Watchmen? And I think that's why, revelations like this that you put out here and caught, they're micro specific examples and specific individuals, but these are the kinds of things that are really good to kind of put a force multiplier behind. If you're the whole kind of MAGA world, truth community, whatever you are, your election integrity movement, you should be. These are the kinds of pinpoints, the micro pinpoints that you can lean on and try to get it amplified. I don't think anybody on this show thinks that nailing this specific situation is the key to fixing everything, but you just need one.
I think that.
Well, you just need one massive scandal that is resolved, to start that cascade. So I just mean it's not going to solve everything overnight, but it's absolutely pivotal to put these things out there. And another point I'd make is that, again, it's broad, but it's kind of interesting how Trump, it really felt like in the aftermath of 2020 and anytime he's referenced this stuff, he really does often put the onus narratively on the governors. And Kemp is a very specific one that he's highlighted many times, as you know, Brian. And I think maybe, I used to kind of dismiss that, or not dismiss it, but just figure like, well, yeah, of course he's going to put it on the governor because that's who's ostensibly overall in charge of election infrastructure. But I think as often happens with Trump, with the benefit of hindsight, he's saying more than he's saying oftentimes when he's spotlighting the governors. He's like, yeah, I know that there's these little peons and all these people that have to be involved to affect a crime like this, but the governor is aware of what's going on in these situations, if not is running point on it from the start.
Yeah, I think one of the things that this story does here is really expose the uniparty when you think about it, because we talk about these red versus blue labels, Republican versus Democrats, and this is something I've been talking about a lot on my show lately. It's fake. Like, that is a fake division that it's a show they put on to keep us us gremlins like actually divided. It's fake division from them to keep us actually divided. And here we have a supposedly Republican, back in 2018, he was Secretary of State, and he's the guy who brought in Dominion machines. And then in 2021, the story, to sum it up, I saw a couple people in the chat asking, May of 2021, the head of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation gets presented with compelling evidence. He called it compelling. And in November, he tells Senator David Perdue, former senator, that he's not going to investigate it because he's a team player and Kemp doesn't want him to investigate it. Why would a Republican or somebody supporting Trump not even look into that? Even if it doesn't change the outcome of 2020 from his perspective or whatever, at least investigate the fraud, fix the elections, address an issue, see where it goes. But he's not willing to even do that. And that's the layer that needs to be peeled back. And we refuse to stop operating within this dual hat system of red versus blue. And if we don't at least step outside that and acknowledge the uniparty, we're never going to advance beyond where we are now. And this is a good example that Kemp is uniparty. He is not our friend. He's not our ally. And he is just one of many people in elected office, elected in quotes, that's out there.
So when I was up in Georgia covering the Curling v. Raffensperger case, I spoke with a couple people that are, intimately familiar with Brian Kemp, and he is the top dog in Georgia in terms of Georgia politics. I mean, obviously he's the governor, but the amount of money that he has in the coffers, he can make or break you as a politician in the state of Georgia. And you brought up a great point, John, when you said that in 2018 he was the Secretary of State before he became governor, and he did ultimately usher in Dominion to replace the Diebold systems they had before. And a lot of people have speculated, and I said it today. I think I was on I was either on Lindell or on Viva Fry today, and I said, was asked, well, why would Kemp do this? And I think the reason for it is because he's the one that brought this voting system into the fray. And I also believe that in order for a Democrat to be able to fully manipulate that system the way that it's potentially capable of being manipulated, you have to have the mail-in ballot aspect of it. You can't just make it up on flipping votes on election day, because everybody knows historically that conservatives vote on election day. I mean, that's something they've beat into our heads for the last 4 or 5 years and the last 2 or 3 election cycles. And so if you don't have that supplementation to the steel by bringing in universal mail-in balloting that can go one way or the other, who knows if Democrats actually vote more on mail-in ballots. But that's what they had in 2020 because of the COVID outbreak, the quote unquote COVID outbreak. And so a lot of people, I heard on that same clip we talked about with Stinchfield, Christina Bobb was on
Bitchfield. Henceforth,
he's a Marine. I'm a Marine. Bob's a Marine. I'm gonna keep it civil. But
you steal content like that, that's gay, man.
We're used
or
to
his intern stole it. Either way,
doesn't matter.
Strategically transferring equipment to alternate locations. That's the acronym for STEAL in the Marine Corps. So he didn't steal it. He just strategically transferred it to an alternate location. But yeah, she goes on later to talk about exactly that, about Kemp being Secretary of State and ushering in these machines and having to protect the system that they have set up there.
And we're going to talk about this story here it came out of Reuters today of Puerto Rico, the machines, and Tulsi Gabbard. But I have a question for you, CanCon. We have seen Dominion sue Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, Patrick Byrne, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Mike Lindell. I may be missing more, but they've sued everybody. But you know what? The one person they haven't sued is probably the most famous person who said the most stuff in Donald Trump. Why have they not sued Donald Trump over his claims?
Oh, I thought you meant me. They haven't sued me yet.
Or besides you. I said famous.
I don't. That's a good question. Maybe the executive privilege. That's the only thing I could think of.
I don't think that would save somebody from like defamation, which is what they sued over.
That's a fantastic question. I honestly can't answer that. I do know that the lawsuits that they did file, I think Fox News deliberately rolled over in that lawsuit. I think they did that so it would turn the screws on Newsmax, who ultimately rolled over. I don't think OANN ever did.
I think they did.
I don't know. I don't think OANN did. Did they settle with Dominion? I know Newsmax did, and I know Fox News did.
I'll look that up while you keep talking.
CanCon, my ears must be playing tricks on me. I have it on credible anonymous authority that everyone at Fox News is secret white hats because they're saying 17 and like trust the plan and stuff like that in prime time. And you're telling me that the net effects of them settling with Dominion basically completely changed the battle space when it comes to uncovering election fraud, or even attempting to, which we were saying at the time that this was happening. So, we're not making any specific accusations, but the net effects of these settlements were such that obviously the specific organizations that settled are not looking into election fraud, but those were massive flares across the battle space for anybody that wants to look into these things or make any accusations or file any reports or anything like that. So, again, we talk about this all the time when it comes to the uniparty and controlled oppo dynamic, and, people looking for secret white hats at Fox News, and people think we're just being butthurt assholes. This is a specific example where putting your faith in a corporate media organization that led you conservatives hook, line, and sinker like donkeys into forever wars in the Middle East for 20 years, and all the same people own these fucking corporations today, and you cheerlead them because Jesse Waters gets on there and says 17 and Donald Trump retweets him. Like, at some point, you have to grow up and understand what's actually going on here. And I think the election fraud scenario is just a very specific, close situation where it should be easy to see that.
Can you stop yelling at me, please?
Yeah, you, John, you Fox simp.
Can you imagine, BB, to your point, can you imagine Fox News winning a $787 million, whatever it was, lawsuit, and then Dominion turns around and is like, oh, by the way, we're bankrupt. We just won
Right.
We just won 700. We won $750 million. That's like 5 years of gross revenue for Dominion. 5 election years of gross revenue for Dominion, and they turn around, they're like, oh, by the way, we're bankrupt. But that's the perpetual cycle of election companies. And me and Ash have covered this ad nauseum with all the Venezuela hoopla that's going on right now. And, one of the things we uncovered doing stolen elections on Badlands Book Club is that everything they're claiming Dominion is capable of doing actually came from Sequoia over in London with the globalists, owned by a globalist company, an MI6 company. But to the point on Fox News, $787 million scares the hell out of Newsmax, who still was trying to fight this and stay above water. And so what do? They're like, well, we can settle for 50 million, or I think it was like 60 million. So let's go ahead and settle that for 60 million. And then everybody else,
insane amount of money for like
huge.
Yeah,
That's
they just
insane.
make this shit up. And again, that goes back around to the initial storyline where you're talking about the judicial system, right? It's like ultimately, or I mean, maybe you could argue this, but that's the first and the last backstop. It's if you've got the judicial system, and you do, all the rest of it works like a well-oiled machine, right? Because you can bring absurd lawsuits on any number of issues, and if you know how the system works or who it's going to go to, then you know what the result is going to be, right? And if the other party, to your point, CanCon, about somebody like Newsmax or Fox News, maybe they were trying to fight the good fight. They were trying to save the country, right? I mean, that's probably why Fox immediately announced that Donald Trump had lost Arizona with 0.3% of the vote in, or whatever it was that night. I'm sure they were trying to look out for the country. So we can assume that they were trying to do that and fight the good fight. But when a company that big with that much money, to your point, Brian, settles, it sets narrative and actual precedent. The actual precedent has also been set. And to think that you're going to win that battle, like I don't blame these other companies. I don't blame Newsmax and whoever else just kind of backs off, because that's the lay of the land, essentially.
Well, this is also a controlled opposition dynamic tactic because like I don't think Fox News is our friend. I don't know Newsmax. I don't think they're our friend. I don't think any of these people are potentially our friends. I don't trust any of these people, anybody. It's a tactic to like get into a lawsuit with somebody, win or settle it, and then nobody can talk about election fraud out of fear of the same thing happening to them. And so you get in bed with these companies, and who knows what they got in return. You know, a transaction of $50 million for Newsmax now, what did they get in return on the flip side of it? They get metrics or something pushed away by other tech platforms. Who knows? But I see it as like a normie layer controlled oppo dynamic tactic to use the court systems to instill that fear, and keep everybody within that dynamic. But I do want to get to this next story because this is a big one. And this is kind of up the same vein. This came out today. Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, has been the last week. We've heard more about and from Tulsi Gabbard and her office than we have in like the entire first year of Trump's administration. She's had a couple appearances here and there. She's been fairly like laying low, a couple press conferences now and then, some declassified docs now and then. And now it's like hot and heavy. And this is just the latest story. We're going to have you here for this, Brian, and then me and BB are going to get into some of the other ones after. But this came out this evening. U.S. Spy Chief's office investigated voting machines in Puerto Rico. I'm going to read a couple lines, and then I'm going to pass it to you, Brian, because you have a different perspective on this. I don't know how much you want to say on that. But a team working for President Donald Trump's spy chief, Tulsi Gabbard, last spring led an investigation into Puerto Rico's voting machines, said Gabbard's office and 3 sources familiar with the previously unreported events. The sources said the goal was to work with the FBI to investigate claims that Venezuela had hacked voting machines in Puerto Rico, but added the probe did not produce any clear evidence of Venezuelan interference in the U.S. territory's elections. Gabbard's office, in a statement to Reuters, confirmed the main investigation but denied a link to Venezuela, saying its focus was on vulnerabilities in the island's electronic voting systems. Her team took an unspecified number of Puerto Rico's voting machines and additional copies of data from the machines as part of its investigation, spokesperson for Gabbard's office of the DNI had said. Do you have anything you want to say on this, Brian?
Well, so first and foremost, this whole Puerto Rico thing revolves around the primaries in 2024 in Puerto Rico. And there was a story that came out about the Dominion machines that they use in Puerto Rico. They have like 6,000 of them. A bunch of the machines were reporting lower votes than what they had in paper counts. And there was also reports of votes being flipped. And both of those two examples of anomalies we saw in the United States. And in the 2020 election, we have the QR code signature mismatch, which aligns with the machine doesn't count as many votes as there are paper ballots. And this goes back to the testimony not testimony, but the speech that John Eastman gave with Rudy Giuliani on January 6th at the Ellipse, where he said the machines take ballots and they put them into a provisional folder. And then later on after the election, you can take whatever you need out of that provisional folder and allocate it wherever you need it. And that same exact code we found, in source code, in system log files in Williamson County, Tennessee, and all throughout Georgia. And so it's not shocking to me that they're seeing this type of thing in Puerto Rico. And immediately back in June 2024, I said, this is probably what the problem is. The other one is the vote flip anomaly. And we saw that in Antrim County. We saw that in DeKalb County, Georgia. Both times we got 2 different explanations for it. So who knows what the actual case is here in terms of what's going on. But I do have sources that are intimately involved in this specific investigation. And it was not about whether or not Venezuela interfered in this. It was they were asked to go down there by the government of Puerto Rico, and they went down there and did a simple forensic analysis of their machines and gave their conclusions to Puerto Rico. There was no, and this is what I think they're trying to do, is I think they're trying to now kind of envelop Tulsi Gabbard in the same thing that they got Sidney Powell with in the 2020 election. And that is the Venezuelan and the Kraken and Smartmatic and all the other stuff that they went after as conspiracy. Now, there could be some truth to it. I don't know. I personally don't believe that Maduro and Venezuela, a regime that is not on anybody's good graces unless you're a country that doesn't sanction them, like Iran, Russia, China, is somehow controlling elections all over the world. To me, that is fundamentally absurd that somebody would make that claim. And
you don't believe that 3 guys on a boat saved Donald Trump and everything?
The catamaran, bro.
Yeah.
Going to the Bermuda. No, I don't believe that. And if, like I said, if you've watched Badlands Book Club with Ash and I and Colonel Towner, thank God she's on this book with us. She is absolutely destroying the factual shortcomings of that book. And this feels like an op to me. The Venezuela thing really feels like an op to me. A lot of these documents that people are referring to allegedly came out of discovery in the Fox News case. Do I think some of it could be true? Yes, I do. But as somebody that's investigated for elections in this country for the last 5 years and has been intimately involved, I mean, to the point where, you know, I'm telling you guys things that are going to happen in elections before they happen, especially regarding 2020. Never once have I heard somebody outside of, you know, kind of the spooks that are trying to guide us ever mention foreign interference. Nobody has mentioned that in my circle. And that includes Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan and Pennsylvania. I've never heard anything about foreign interference other than Canada once in Pennsylvania.
Well,
they're not a real country. They don't count as foreign interference.
Well, that's actually kind of Freudian, though, because I was going to say, and Chris talks about this a lot, another kind of lesson I think a lot of us have learned over the last few years, even if you have, quote unquote, credible accusations of foreign interference, the baseline sort of theory or understanding of being in what you call an info war is the belief that there is a globalist criminal organization. It may be an official organization or a loosely affiliated grouping of criminals in positions of power in various countries, right? Which is why I think even getting bogged down in whether or not there was foreign interference by the book is itself a psyop. That's a trap. Because there was something I was reading even a week ago where some of the definitions of this foreign interference was intel operatives of England working in Italy. So then it becomes Italian foreign interference in X situation, right? But it's like, no, it's intel, which means deep state. And again, I know we know this, but I think it's a problem. We get so bogged down in Russia did this, China did this, Italy did this, England did this. It's like, no sovereign nation has the will of the people and is doing these things. No government is openly doing these things. If we think there's this decentralized criminal network, they wear governments, they wear intel agencies as skin suits. So, you know, I think they are trying to bog her down in this kind of crap. But to your point, Brian, even if there's there of the Venezuelan connections to U.S. election systems, it's not Venezuela. And it's just this matryoshka they set up where if people follow the threads back far enough, they just stop at foreign actor X and it gets blamed on a specific country. And then that's it. The intel agencies wipe their hands of it and just move on to the next one.
Yeah, the last chapter that we just went through on the Stolen Elections book, the last it's 2 chapters, but we only got through one of them, is kind of an overview of Venezuela's contemporary history going back to like the 70s-ish, more or less. And it talks about how once Chavez and Maduro came to power in Venezuela, the country kind of went to shit, right? And the reason for that, they blame it as, you know, Chavez socialized everything and made everything under the control of the government and took the oligarchs out of the PDVSA, the state-owned oil company. But in reality, the reason it went to shit is because every Western democracy sanctioned the shit out of Venezuela, and Venezuela could no longer get anything at, you know, an affordable price in their country. They were literally scraping by to get by. And so the idea to me that somehow Maduro and Chavez were able to run elections in all of these globalist countries is categorically absurd. Now, could it be Venezuelans like Bibi was suggesting? Yeah, absolutely. The same Venezuelans who fled the Maduro and Chavez regime came into America, set up their corporation in Delaware. Smartmatic is registered in Delaware, and opened an office in Boca Raton, Florida, 15 minutes north of me. Now, the really interesting thing about this, and we talk about this on Why We Vote and other shows, Smartmatic eventually bought Sequoia. Now, Sequoia, again, like I was saying, was it was an Irish company that ended up in London, owned by a gentleman named De La Rue. And he had ties back to, I can't remember the company, but it was an MI6 front type company. And when they tried to bring Sequoia into the United States, California Secretary of State in 2007 did an assessment on the software and found that the cryptography keys were hard coded into the software, and anybody that had access to that system would be able to find the cryptography keys, the crypto keys for that system, and be able to access whatever they want. That was Sequoia, not Smartmatic, not the Venezuelan company. That was the London-based globalist company. Okay, I think it was like 2022. Phil Davis and some others went into the Dominion system and found that they had their crypto key hard-coded into the software as well, just like Sequoia, the globalist company who was bought out by, Smartmatic and eventually Lord Malik Brown, Open Societies, Sir Nigel Knowles, British oligarchs that bought this over. And so now we have this op being deployed on Americans by the way, one of them is like, oh yeah, I'm CIA. And it's like, oh, now all of a sudden we trust the CIA because they're saying the things we want, that it's Maduro stealing elections. Oh, bullshit.
Yeah. He said he was lying for good reasons, CanCon.
It was totally the PSYOP. Now he's telling the truth. This time I swear I'm telling the truth.
I think what we're seeing here, this story about like the Venezuela thing is a red herring. And they're so concerned about the truth about election fraud stuff coming out, and it's very obvious the way the mainstream media is reacting to Tulsi down there, the way all the worst people in Congress are reacting to this. They're worried. And to me, this is almost like they're seeding a narrative of, see, they even went to Puerto Rico, like that shithole, and they can even find election interference there. But they've built this fantastical story about Venezuela manipulating our elections when we've been told repeatedly by President Trump in that draft executive order from December of 2020 and by Tulsi Gabbard herself in that letter she wrote, when it comes to election interference, the machines, they have that a vulnerability that can be exploited. It was put there potentially by these foreign elements who, made the machines, own the machines or whatever. But that doesn't mean a foreign person went in there and hacked the machine and switched the votes. It could be as simple as somebody inserting a USB card or whatever to switch the votes. And she says that in this letter. She talks about Executive Order 13848. They're supposed to identify the foreign nature of any foreign interference, and that's potentially who directed, sponsored, or supported it. And then also in here, she talks about back in April of 2025, which I'm assuming it was after they got back from Puerto Rico, by the way, that there is information and intelligence reporting suggesting that electronic voting systems being used in the United States have long been vulnerable to exploitation that could result in enabling determined actors to manipulate the results of the votes being cast with the intent of changing the outcome of an election. And I think in our heads, we expect there to be like this crazy story of these hackers, and that's the story we've been told by these big figures, when the foreign interference is really on a much probably smaller, more minute, and like more boring way that it's done. Does that make sense, CanCon?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think it's potentially and most likely, I think, a little more simple than that. And one of the things that Reuters article mentions is that there was cellular technology found in the machines down there, and there is truth to that from what I'm told. And if you have the capability for connectivity, and bad actors can connect to it, no matter where it's from, whether it's the mainland United States, whether it's London, Venezuela, wherever the hell it is, and you have the keys, so to speak, the cryptography keys embedded in the software where it's easily accessible. If you know where to look, it's accessible. You can do whatever you want. And we saw in Colorado, Secretary of State Jenna Griswold had the BIOS passwords, active BIOS passwords for every single Dominion system, and I think 60 out of 62 counties in Colorado published on the internet. Georgia had DVS Corp 08 exclamation point. That is the literal password to get master control of the Dominion system in Georgia, and I'm told in several other locations.
What was the password?
DVS Corp, Dominion Voting System Corporation 08 exclamation point.
Wow.
That is literally, and Phil Davis showed us in the software showed us on why we vote exactly where it was.
Insane.
Yep.
Same, man.
I think both of you, it's a good point to just talk about how these things are actually very simple. And one of I'm not saying the implementation of these kinds of crimes are simple. The mechanisms are not simple necessarily, but the answer is, right? Like, it is just the globalists, deep state, who are doing this. And it reminds me of the sort of Scooby-Doo cartoons where it's like they pull off one mask and there's another mask beneath it. And to your point a few minutes ago, John, it's like right now we're being sent on this wild goose chase. There's like former CIA operative, truth community, MAGA people that are coming out and being like, it was Venezuela the whole time. And then once we defeat that narrative, which I think we did in a day, maybe 2 days, they pull off another mask. They're like, but did you catch the Venezuelans in Puerto Rico? And then we're going to pull off the mask on that one. And it's like, they were actually Englishmen in Italy. And that was who it was. It's like, actually, it was just the people who stole the elections. It wasn't any of these things. And it's one of the things that actually, quote unquote, truthers, we kind of fall prey to this kind of stuff easily because we're used to being lied to by the mainstream media and by governments. So we have a tendency of being very detail oriented and digging into all these things. And the simple answer that these people are just pretending to be foreign actors, foreign governments, etc., is usually the one that escapes us. They want us concocting hyper complex scenarios of how X foreign nation infiltrated the United States when it's actually just been the intel agencies the whole time. It was 100 years ago. It still is now.
And it's ironically the intel agencies, they're the ones that are promoting those fantastical stories, which the media can then debunk and be like, see, we told you again. Like, that's not true. Like, how many times has this happened where we get these crazy, wild hacking stories that make us sound crazy when we try to explain to our friends, like, hey, thanks, Hal Turner. Hal Turner's like, I sold all my stuff. I paid off all my debts and I'm living in an apartment sitting on cash money. It's like, well, then you should have said that in a rant, bro. Like, just joking. And here he leaves a $50 rant. So thank you, Hal.
Thanks, Hal.
Cash money, Hal. That's our boy. I don't remember where I was, but
yeah, the intel agencies themselves are not just involved in the steal, but to your point, John, they are the ones in charge of disseminating the narrative about the steal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're setting the narrative, and they're the ones that are making us sound crazy to our friends. Like, how many of you guys went to your friends and were like, guys, it's Italy. Did you hear about the shootout? There's a shootout in Italy, and the machines. Yeah. And then your friends are like, bro, you're fucking insane.
Yeah, I thought it was Venezuela last week. It's like, well, it was last week, but now it's the Venezuelans were working with the Italians, and you know, it does. It makes us sound crazy, and that's why, like, the intel spook. Once a spook, always a spook. It's the way it is.
The machines are designed intentionally. Go ahead, Cancon.
I think we're pretty resilient to this. At least the people that have been here since day one of the election fraud, 2020 election fraud fight. There's people that have been doing it a lot longer. They're resilient to this. We had the Frankfurt server story. We had the Leonardo Spa story in Italy. We had the Didong Shang story in China. We had the Venezuela story. Yeah, Didong Shang. That's the one that Tucker Carlson played. We've had the Chinese fake ballots. We've had all of these stories pushed out on us, and none of them held water. And the most fundamental thing turns out to be true, and that is that we have power-hungry sons of bitches here in the United States that are part of a uniparty that like their establishment cush lifestyle. They like to stand out there like John Thune did yesterday and say that, hey, we'd vote on voter ID, but we've got too many important things like highways and everything else. And it's like, fuck you, dude. None of that is more important than elections, period.
Yeah. Chris and I did Troy on Tuesday night, and of course, there's a lot more to it, but the Trojan horse is a ubiquitous analogy. We use it all the time. It's just like something that has survived through thousands of years as a cipher. But in this context, to what you're saying, Brian, it's like the election fraud or the election integrity movement. You're like standing on the walls of Troy and looking down over at the enemies, the Greeks. It's like, it's the Greeks. And the guy next to you is like, it's totally the Greeks, man. And he came in on the Trojan horse that the Greeks gave you. And they're standing on the walls with you. And I feel like there are so many examples of that right now. And even at the start of the show, when I was lecturing everybody about Fox News secret white hats, there's different examples of this in different theaters of the info war. And one of them is that media landscape. These things all work together, right? You've got the people on the ground, so to speak, that are coordinating this kind of fraud. The stolen elections is, as you both have been saying for years, probably the most important thing to address in the country. Then, as your reporting shows, you've got people in positions of power, of administrative power, covering up for that. But a key vector is what we're talking about. I think it's the media space, the narrative space. And I think in this community, we understand on a surface level, hey, when CNN, when CBS debunks election fraud and says there's no such thing as it and the election was clean, we react impulsively and we know that they're lying, right? But the most effective liars are the ones who pretend to be you.
Yes.
The most effective liars are the ones who you let in the gates because they thought you were one of you. And those liars don't lie to your face in the same way, right? Those liars come in and they say, you know what? I think you're right. The election was stolen by the Venezuelans. And it's very, very simple. But because people are so emotionally coded to these things and care so much about these things, it makes you vulnerable to anybody who just wants to pretend to be you. If you gave a liberal one day to read Truth Social and gave them $100,000 to pretend to be a MAGA person, they'd be able to do it and join this community in a day.
Yep.
In a day. Repeat the slogans, put 17 on your timeline, talk about how the election was stolen. There you go. Do you have any inside sources we should know about? And that's pretty much what we're doing. But when you give somebody a giant platform, it amplifies that reach.
Such a good point, man. Ken, is there anything else you want to say? Should we play the Bitchfield clip?
Yeah, you can play it if you want.
We should do a lesson on this, yes.
A lesson on this? Oh, let me get to my right
because
tab.
It's not just, well, we can use him as a negative one, and then there's a positive one. Somebody sent me that clip of Gouveia. Was that his name?
Yeah, we can do both.
Yeah, I've got this. I'll queue up the other one. You queue up Bitchfield.
Well,
Queue up? Is that a com?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay, here's Bitchfield.
Blockbuster news coming out. After President Trump was charged, there was grand jury testimony in Georgia related to the Trump case, the criminal case there. The senator at the time was Senator David Perdue. His testimony now has been released, and it's unbelievable to read. This is part of Senator David Perdue's testimony.
Pause it there. It's unbelievable to read. He has one paragraph of
You haven't read shit, bro.
91 pages.
Those are my highlights, my trademark highlights.
Me and John have read the whole thing. This dude doesn't even have the source document. I could have made this whole fucking thing up and he would have just published it out there and been. No, I did not. But John has the source documents.
There's probably what 3 people that exist that have these
John
right
killed.
Now. As far as I know, there's only 4
already
people.
Dead inside, bro. You can't kill somebody who's dead inside.
So,
they just
him saying I read through it and it's like, what? You didn't read anything. You read John's highlights
and Kencon's article.
Yeah, good.
And Bernie Bright's editing. Asshole.
I didn't have to do much. I will say, Brian, there wasn't much editing to be done. So
thank you.
I was surprised.
I was surprised too. You should have read the first draft. There was a lot of editing that needed to be done.
It's not true.
Recounting a conversation with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's chief. Quote, he, head of GBI, that's Georgia Bureau of Investigations, Vic Reynolds, saw evidence of ballot harvesting, and in this is video evidence and cell phone evidence. He, Vic Reynolds, looked at that and said it was compelling enough to be investigated. But yet we know, folks, that no investigation ever took place into what sure looked like fraud that we witnessed with our own eyes, things that looked so shady, feeding ballots through. We know there was the allegations of drop boxes and ballot harvesting, and nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? Well, David Perdue continued his testimony there, and it reads like this. This, according to Purdue, Reynolds, the head of Georgia Bureau of Investigations, told him, quote, I am a team player. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we are not going to investigate. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we are not going to investigate, Vic Reynolds said to David Perdue. I believe David Perdue in all this. Remember, he was the senator at the time. He lost to John Ossoff by about 90,000 votes. He's got skin in the game in all of this. And now, mind you, not long after this, Vic Reynolds was apparently, according to reporting, appointed to a cushy judgeship position in Cobb County by none other than...
I didn't realize he's got Dumbo ears. Do you know that? Why didn't you put that in your story, Brian?
I don't know. I forgot that part.
Clone ears to me, if I ever seen him.
Dumbo. I mean, those things, he could probably get some air mileage out of those things. Yeah, we don't have to listen to the rest of this.
I want to give props to this guy. I've never heard of this guy, but he's got a big YouTube channel. And somebody sent us a rant. Who was this tonight? Funky Joe Media sent us this. I just want to show people it's not hard, right? We're just saying, like, it makes people not really trust you when you're just going to rip somebody's work like we just saw RAV do. So this is, what's his name?
Robert Gouvet.
Robert Gouvet.
Gouvet.
Oops.
Yeah, it's muted.
And they're taken out of the game. And let's make sure that we are, of course, subscribed over there to those guys. Badlands Media. Wow, what a shocking reveal. Think that's the same guy. So, man, shout out to them. And this report, Badlands Media, badlands.substack.com. Everybody who got evidence presented to them was taken off the field and made judges. So you can't investigate them anymore. It's a total scam.
Yeah, shout out. You know, there's times. There's
that guy's got great hair too.
He is, yeah.
I like Robert Gouvet. Robert Gouvet does some really good podcasts. Like when there's a court case going on, that's the guy that I'm watching. Him and yeah, pretty much just him.
What about Badlands?
It's just a hat tip.
Well,
it's a cool. It's cool of him to do.
Brian just admitted he doesn't watch Badlands.
Wow.
I do watch Badlands. I watch almost all the shows on Badlands.
When there's something important on, I just watch him. Just him. Nobody else.
No, he does. He has a good perspective. He's a criminal defense attorney. He does good work. He's shouted me out quite a few times. And I think I was on his show once. I can't remember.
Does he do any civil cases?
What's that?
Does he do any civil?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, I got
asking for a friend.
I got you. You know what? I'd like to see him cover Ash's case. I mean, it's way past due now, but
I have said,
what the fuck, Brian? Ash is my other go-to. Okay, so there it is. But you know, Ash is usually on the show with me. So
I have said to Ash, I haven't said this publicly yet, but if there are any attorneys out there, specifically in either Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, maybe Philadelphia, and Arizona. If you want a case, you got to do it. What's a contingency? You can do it, and you can keep 95% of your winnings. We got the whole case laid out for you. Just give us a call, reach out, email legal@badlandsmedia.org.
I'm not an attorney,
be
but
serious.
What
was that?
I'm not an attorney, but I'll take my best shot.
Yeah. Give us
all right.
a reach out. Okay, CanCon, you get out of here, man. We have important stuff to talk about.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah. Oh, by the way, just little plug here. There's going to be a lot more coming out on Georgia, and it's going to be broken here on Badlands, but also on Gateway Pundit as well. So,
but mostly here.
Mostly here.
If and when the Dems win the midterms, we'll know who demoralized the whole movement.
It's my fault.
Was Brian Lupo.
It's my fault.
Blame me. Think elections were fake.
Blame me. See you guys later.
All right, peace.
All right, man. We should probably get to our next sponsors, huh?
I guess.
We got Rise of Tire up, some Sovereign Alliance. Surprised you haven't said Sovereign Alliance once yet.
Yeah, I've been jonesing.
There's
some good comms this week.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff. But let's get a quick word from Rise of Tire. We'll get a quick word from Soft Disclosure. And we'll get into some other DNI happenings from the week.
What is the Sovereign Alliance? The Sovereign Alliance are a collection of leaders and countries that are aligned not in the vision for their countries, but against a vision that has been thrust upon them. I believe that the Sovereign Alliance is less a battle for something and more a battle against something. They are against globalism, collectivism. They are against the rules-based international order.
Sovereign Alliance, the latest addition to Badlands Rise merch, available now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
Hell yeah. And then on top of Rise Attire, which their products are all great, you should also get some beard oil or lotion or deodorant or a beard brush.
Apparently.
Or
as
some
if you're a horse.
rock thing that you rub on your neck. You can get it all from Soft Disclosure.
The following ad is rated M for mature. Soft Disclosure wants you to get naked this Valentine's Day with limited edition his and her bundles that save you 20% off the individual retail prices. Proprietary oil infusions, grass-finished beef tallow, goat's milk from American goats, locally grown herbs and ingredients. Soft Disclosure is putting America First fruits on your skin.
And for these sexy bundles, we've added an all-new boar's haired beard brush and a solid jade gua sha. And the reason I'm here is because Alpha doesn't know how to say these words.
Gusha. His, hers. We need a moment to calm down. Don't hide your skin. Disclose it. Get naked this Valentine's Day with Soft Disclosure. Head over to softdisclosure.com and save 20% off individual retail prices with our his and hers customizable bundles, and use promo code NAKED to save 15% off the rest of the site. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
There we go, guys. Get yourself some Valentine's supplies from Soft Disclosure. And you'd be supporting Badlands Media in the process and four other American companies. Well, not five.
I said like 6 at this point, so it's getting a little crazy.
We think it is 6, including Badlands, now that we have the beard brush.
Okay.
Because the beard brush is another company.
We are supporting local wild boar who are donating their tail feathers.
I was thinking, like, we need to find somebody in the Badlands community who can make beard brushes, because I feel like...
Are we running out?
No. I just feel like that's something we could do ourselves. Like, somebody could do it. It could be Badlands made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like a piece of wood, and I guess I don't know the science behind
There's probably a lot more too. I'll let you know when I have mine.
Okay. I'm getting one too. So
okay.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, Brian is going on the InfoWars tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern, by the way, tomorrow. Not with AJ. I think with Brianna Morello or whatever, but still should be interesting. Making the rounds.
Alpha and Ash are both like professional level voice actors. We didn't even know.
Yeah, Onlylands will have some alternative scripts. Maybe we'll roll out there. We'll see what happens.
Hide your kids.
Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about what else happened this week. So on Monday, Tulsi Gabbard, I was reading that letter earlier. We talked about this on Baseless. I've talked about it on my show, but I haven't talked about it on a Power Hour yet. They are clearly freaking out over Tulsi Gabbard. They've been trying to smear her. They did that Washington Street Journal article. I think it was over the weekend, where they were essentially saying, yeah, there's this like phantom, allegation out there against Tulsi Gabbard, but it's so highly classified that we can't even talk about what it is. The media's running with that. The Democrats are running with that. We did have the ODNI come out today. The ICIG. No, the Intelligence Community Inspector General came out today and kind of debunked and shed light on that situation. It's a political thing. It's what it sounds like. So Tulsi Gabbard had some sort of highly classified information. They didn't share it or didn't give it to somebody. And the accusation is that she did it for political purposes. Like, she held back the report for political purposes. The ICIG was like, well, that's your opinion, and that this is not a credible claim. But they are doing everything they can to stop her, and it's because she's looking into this election fraud. And I'm absolutely loving it, because I'm just getting flashbacks to, my research from the Devolution series and all the things John Ratcliffe did in the run-up to Joe Biden being inaugurated and the setting up of the devolution period, the devolution term, and how important he was, I think, especially to the election aspects of it, the fraud. And she's in that role now. I always thought it was weird how they put her there and not Ratcliffe, and he like got a demotion, even though like if you're gonna bring him back, you'd probably bring him back to the same role. Because I can't think of anybody else who got brought back from the previous administration who didn't come back in the same role. Maybe I'm missing somebody, but it's been all new people except Ratcliffe getting in at the CIA. But Tulsi Gabbard has all the same information that Dina Ratcliffe had back then, and here she is, and front and center with the election stuff, and they're losing their damn minds.
Yeah, I think to start this narrative this week, that's the key, is when you see WSJ come out with a hit piece, you really can start to use these people as reverse indicators. And again, it doesn't always mean whatever they're saying, just take the opposite of it. But when they release that report, then you know they are trying to get ahead of something. I mean, it's so obvious, but we've been doing this long enough. Everybody watching this show kind of knows when narrative crafting or story crafting is happening in real time. And when it's focused on a specific individual, then a couple days later, that individual comes out with, you know, these press conferences on election fraud, etc., or a few days before in this case, then it kind of ties a bow on that. You're like, oh, I see. I understand why there's these hit pieces. What I liked about the ODNI or whatever you'd sent me earlier and just reference, what I like about that is that they're not really letting these narratives breathe a lot these days, which is good. You know, like you can't stop them. You can't stop the media apparatus from inventing narratives. And this one demonstrates how clever they are, because really there's nothing to it. To your point about literally how the report, I don't even mean on an actual level. I mean, even on a narrative level, they're not even making a claim against Tulsi Gabbard. They're implying that a claim has been made and strategically allowing the audience to infer whatever they want to infer by using these buzzwords. It grants them legal and narrative shielding as a media apparatus, but it also isn't lying, technically. And this is how this stuff works. But I think what's good about how the administration operates right now, this sort of narrative apparatus behind the Trump admin, is, like I said, they're not letting these things breathe. They kind of give them a day in the news cycle, sometimes even 12 hours. And they're like, actually, here's the actual. We're going to go ahead and tie a bow on this whole story run that you guys probably were going to drip out for weeks and weeks and weeks, right? If they didn't respond with anything, you would have got another unnamed source in The Atlantic that would have followed up on the Wall Street Journal. And then you would have got the New York Times. That's how these things work. So they're intercepting it. But from a Tulsi Gabbard perspective, it makes me think of, you know, Chris Paul talks about the TV characters. Some people like that and some people don't. But to your point about Ratcliffe, whether you like or dislike these TV characters in the second Trump administration, it's kind of cool to think about the actual work having been done during the term that you studied the most and that outgoing term, and then the Gabbards of the world coming in and essentially acting as translation layers. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of negative ways to look at TV characters. The way I've looked at it has been as translation layers. And I guess that's just to say, I don't know if it's controversial to say, but I don't think Tulsi Gabbard is like sniffing around in Fulton County and actually finding these things and putting a team together and we're starting the investigation. To your point, all the work that's been done. And that might be one proposed answer I'd give of what you floated there. Why, like, isn't it curious that you wouldn't just bring back the guy who did a lot of the footwork here? They might be trying to create some separation there between the outgoing Trump administration that had the election presumably stolen from them and people who are in these positions now, even if Ratcliffe is really the one who did the grunt work here.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, back in 2020, they knew what was wrong with the machines. They knew how it was stolen. They knew everything back then. That's at least been the presumption. I think most people agree with that. Trump and his team, the inner working team, the Devo team, they've known this entire time how they did it. Okay. And so now it's about rolling it out and getting some sort of accountability. This is the phase we've been waiting for the entire time. When you go and look at, I read this on my show, but there's this old Twitter thread I did. And in there, it talks about John Ratcliffe. And this is from the Jack Smith case, the one in DC, where he was going after Trump for election interference and racketeering or whatever. there's a quote in there from Trump's team where they're talking about what took place and what intelligence that exists. And there's a line that says Jeff Clark was writing a letter or a report about election fraud and intelligence they had on it. And on like January 2nd, he had the report ready. Then he meets with D&I Ratcliffe and comes out of that meeting. And in his report, the draft report, he changes the wording from there were concerns to there are significant irregularities surrounding the election that may have impacted the results in several states, like the election is in question. That's the same intelligence that Tulsi Gabbard is now playing with. And if you look at her letter from when she was down in Florida, like responding to that, first of all she really had to say was like the first or second line and the last one. Everything in between is kind of fodder for us, I think. And maybe a shot across the bow, even because she talks about all her authorities. She mentions election interference and foreign interference so many times. She talks about how she did a review and saw that there is like significant vulnerabilities that could potentially lead to vote manipulation and everything. But there's two other nuggets in there that really stood out to me. One is she says at the end that I didn't see the warrant. I don't know what they said to the DOJ to get the warrant. You know, I haven't seen any of that stuff. I was just there. But she had advance notice that they were at least applying for, like, how else would she have been there for the search warrant if she didn't know it was coming? And then on top of that, she also mentioned that they called Trump while they were down there, and Trump spoke to the FBI people and were like, yeah, good job, guys. Like, they didn't give any directions or anything, they said, but they at least made the call. And so those are
It's a good photo op.
Yeah, there's two very interesting like nuggets in there that kind of work against the story. The phone call is a big one. The fact that she says she didn't know what was on the warrant or what they showed, does that mean that this is a separate thing to the vulnerabilities? And I do think that's partially true, because the search warrant didn't cover any of the machines. They didn't go after any of the machines. They got the paper ballots and all that stuff. And so maybe this is just an additional layer to the election fraud stuff that Tulsi's looking into. And if you think about it, they go hand in hand, because what CanCon said earlier and what we've talked about is whatever machine manipulation that exists that they do, they need to backfill it with actual votes. And that's what they use the ballot harvesting, the mail-in ballots for on the flip side. So those two things do kind of go hand in hand. But to tell me that, like, okay, you didn't know what was in there, yet you're there, like Jason Bourne in the background, like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it kind of makes me think this is maybe too convoluted, but I could see it making some sense. To your point, it's an easy assumption to make, and I think a reasonable one, that obviously the outgoing Trump admin knew what was going on here. And when we say that, it's like, yeah, they didn't just know the election was stolen. They probably knew how, they probably knew where, and they probably have evidence for all of the above, right? Yeah. And of course, we've wondered for a long time with all our various theories for years of why not disclose that directly with that evidence. Well, right here, I mentioned, hey, maybe it's a translation layer. But if I want to back off of that track, to your point about a new investigation, the cliche is the cover-up is what gets you, right? So we think that Ratcliffe and the team in the outgoing first Trump admin had evidence of election fraud. Yes. I'm pretty confident in that. You're pretty confident in that.
It's not even just confident. Like, I'm 100% positive.
Everybody who's watching this show, the whole premise is that, right? That's the initial premise. If you host the show for years, you can then backtrack on that premise.
Here's something you all can do, so not to interrupt. But if you go on Trump Twitter archive and type in the word election and set the dates to November 3rd of 2020 and January 20th of 2021, there are 247 instances of Trump talking about election fraud. And if you start combing through there, there's some pretty revealing ones too, of how much Trump actually knew about what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's so it's part of an article I'm kind of working on as a little rewind on some of that stuff, because Trump knows so much. He had all this stuff that's coming out now back then, and it's like the story is just now finally being told, because for whatever reason. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, well, that actually is a good thing to thread into this. So maybe it doesn't make sense, but if they know in intricate detail the mechanism that was followed, how it was done, the strategy that was followed, and the mechanisms that were employed, then you'd also know how it was covered up. And what better way to start bringing this stuff out into the public than to launch, like, you've got all that stuff. You've already got the backstop. You've got it wrapped up. You've got the RICO if you want it, right? But you launch a new investigation in 2026, knowing how they did it the last time around, and more importantly, knowing how they covered it up the last time around. So you launch a new investigation knowing all of the moves and all of the players and what they did the last time around with the cover-up, right? Now, I'm not suggesting they need this. I'm saying in terms of like a publicly unfolding scandal in real time, rather than them holding press conferences and talking about, hey, back in 2020, these people did X, Y, and Z, you're going to get that layer, that translation layer, disclosure layer rather, and you're probably going to get current layers of current officials doing the same things on repeat to attempt to avoid the new investigation by Gabbard and everybody. So I don't necessarily think it's needed, but it certainly makes it even better. And there might be some people that they want to roll up in sort of a renewed investigation that they didn't roll up or that they don't have rolled up in the previous one. So they're going all out, right? They're like, now it's not just Trump and Ratcliffe, et cetera, silent running and collecting all this evidence that they were collecting in 2020. It's a public declaration of an investigation. So I would imagine that any officials or anybody on the ground in Fulton County, for example, who start making moves now or have in the last few weeks, it's going to be way worse for them than if it was this silent stuff before.
You know, I get what you're saying, and I just have to make a correction. I said 247. It is 271. Tweets are. I know. I'm sorry, guys, but at least I made a correction.
17 in there.
There is a 17. Come on. But what you're kind of saying here, to paraphrase it, you're essentially saying it's like a trap. Like we're setting another trap for these guys. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think they need it, but I think
because I feel like we've used that excuse so many times.
Yeah.
In this community. I don't know if I can buy it.
Or it's a dueling investigate. I mean, is there a way of looking at it negatively as some sort of shielding for them? But I don't see how that would make sense.
I mean, obviously this whole part right here is pure speculation. We don't know what is actually going on. And it's funny to think about them having this evidence, not presenting it then, and even waiting until now to present it, or however long it takes for this stuff to come out. Like from a moral standpoint, that's from a game theory standpoint, you can understand it. Maybe from a moral standpoint, I don't know if you can justify it, but regardless, I think more than likely the election stuff we're seeing is probably going to be tied to the Russiagate RICO investigation that's been going on behind the scenes, which we haven't heard a peep about.
Yeah,
in a long time. It was big in
2025, and the first there was like a 1 month where
the day Charlie Kirk got assassinated, we stopped getting declassified documents. I think we've gotten 1 or 2 sets of documents declassified since then, maybe more, but they've all been related to the Arctic frost thing. We haven't gotten a major, declassified or declassification of documents surrounding the RICO stuff since then. And that's weird to me. We're so distracted by the Epstein files and all this other bullshit, the midterms coming up, that nobody's really, asking about where the RICO stuff is. Nobody's reporting on it. And it's weird. It's awfully quiet. But then all of a sudden we have Tulsi making appearances in the back. And she's the one who was like working with these other interagency partnerships and stuff on declassifying these major documents. And here she is popping up doing election stuff. And when you think about the overarching crime and the stealing of rights, like clearly election fraud is going to be part of that. Depriving people of their rights, that's a major election fraud thing. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if those fundamental rights, sovereignty itself, right? It's a symbol of our sovereignty, literally. It's a symbol of our mandate that we are sort of projecting onto representatives. But that kind of brings me back in a different framing to the translation layer argument and sort of a timeline argument. Chris Paul talks about the informational timeline in terms of knowledge. with these things. But I often talk about the translation layers. And, you know, we've had many different theories. I've come at it from the perspective of, you know, sovereign alliance and doing a lot of research on Russia the last, you know, few years, talking about the devolution angle from that perspective and saying like, hey, at least one aspect, one good actual that came out of Trump not being in a public position of power was all of these international changes that I think needed to happen that I'm not saying would have been impossible if Trump were president, but it certainly would have put him in a very difficult narrative position. If he's in the Oval Office and Putin is going into the Donbass, how the hell does he navigate that?
Yeah.
You know, maybe at this point in time, it's even relatively bipartisan that nobody wants anything to do with Ukraine, but that was not the feeling in 2022. So that's one aspect of it. So now look at this Tulsi Gabbard thing with election fraud. You've brought up this moral argument many, many times about if Trump and team knew about the fraud and could have disclosed it, but didn't, and then they do in the future, that's going to open a lot of those moral arguments. And another way of looking at the 2026 investigations into the 2020 election fraud is that this is their way. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying this could be their way of putting the fact that they knew about it in 2020, or rather that they could prove it, because to your point about his public communications, he's been claiming this since 2020.
Yeah.
Putting that evidence in the burn bags, having Tulsi Gabbard find the burn bags, and that's the translation. Oh, Trump gets to come out and say, I suspected all of these things, and all the officials around him, we suspected this, and we wanted to bring the evidence, and we wanted to bring the charges. I bet you we're going to get versions of that. And if you're looking for, you know, why on a moral framework, I can't necessarily win that argument. But the macro argument would be, did they know that they had to leave, as we've talked about many times for many different reasons? They couldn't contest the election in more of a legal or public manner at that time for various reasons. And because they made that choice, they know that just disclosing like, hey, we knew it was stolen, we had the evidence for it, we just chose not to tell everybody. They know that's not a narrative that they can successfully translate. So they're going to be like, we found all this evidence in 2026.
Yeah. You know, the moral argument, like I said, is different from the game theory side of it. Like, I understand that to win a war, when you're at war, you may have to do some, you know, morally questionable things when done, you know, for the right reasons, whatever. I can understand, and we can have that argument. That doesn't make me not want to like talk about whether or not it's moral to do something. But there's an interesting clip from Trump today. I think it was today. Let me pull this up. Take a listen to this when it comes to future elections and stuff, because it does appear we're going to continue to operate on the normie level, the normie battle space. We're going to continue to have fake elections. We're going to continue to be encouraged to vote in them. But this is what Trump is potentially considering here.
Mr. President, what exactly did you mean when you said that you should nationalize elections? And which 15 states are you talking about?
I want to see elections be honest. And if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, you know, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some of these states about how horribly they run their elections, what a disgrace it is, I think the federal government, when you see crooked elections, and we had plenty of them, and by the way, we had them last time, but go to 2020 and look at the facts that are coming out. Rigged, crooked elections. If we have areas, take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta. Look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections. And the federal government should not allow that.
So real quick before we continue, I think it was on Saturday, maybe. I don't remember when, but I pulled up an electoral college map, and like, so Georgia's one thing, right? And that's the one where all the news is coming out of right now. But if we want to actually get the normie brain to the space of like, oh my gosh, they actually stole enough to change who was president. So what the hell was that? You need multiple states. You need Georgia, I think Pennsylvania, Arizona. and then Michigan, or like Arizona, Michigan, Minnesota. Like, there's multiple ways to do it, but I think Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan would do it. And look at the states he mentioned here. And which one he mentioned first? He goes to Detroit and then Pennsylvania and then down to Georgia, which is the one that's actually in the news right now is Georgia.
Reverse order, maybe.
Yeah, take a listen.
Areas, take a look at Detroit, take a look at Pennsylvania, take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta, look at some of the places that...
Which one's in the news? It's Fulton County is all over the news. Tulsi Gabbard at Fulton County, but he doesn't say that first. He goes Detroit and then he goes Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I wonder if that's the path he's going to choose to get it, because that's ultimately the goal here with this election fraud exposure, because the media and the mainstream and the normies, they're going to be like, well, okay, well, they must have stole Georgia, okay, but still Biden was you didn't win the election, bro. But if they can get to a point, which they need to show that, okay, yeah, they stole enough states to change the outcome of the election, that's what's going to be the major shift in the mindset, I think, at least the public discourse around the election fraud and what actually happened back in 2020. Because it's far worse and more pervasive than anybody even understands. And we need to get the normie mind to that level. And I think they're going to get enough to flip the electoral.
Yeah, that's huge. It, proves the damages, right? That's the actual damages, not just sort of constitutional damages, but actual damages onto the country. But even more so, it brings me back to how we opened and Brian's reporting on Fulton County and how that focuses on the election officials who are state officials who may or may not be the highest officials in the state. So you bringing up this clip about, Trump talking about the nationalization of elections and the states acting as agents of the federal government. It's not, I know this might sound obvious to this audience, but when you're talking about the normie layers, okay, so the election was stolen by the states. That's the key, right? That sounds obvious to us because we've been talking about this forever. We know that the state governments are in on the steals. But to the normies, I think normies who even talk about or engage with the concept of election fraud, they're thinking about one campaign versus another campaign, right? They're thinking of the Democrats and the Republicans, the Trump campaign, the Biden campaign, the Clinton campaign. They're not thinking of the governor of Georgia, the governor of Michigan, the governor of wherever the other one was that you mentioned, Pennsylvania. And again, that's so obvious to us, but that is seismic to the American people if it's disclosed in a proven actual manner. Like, hey guys, the 2020 election was stolen by your governor. And de facto, that essentially puts you into a civil war footing. I know that gets used all the time, but on sort of an abstract power projection level, how on earth, if that is disclosed and proven to the American people, if we've got at least 3 state governors who stole their elections for a specific candidate, meaning from the American people, how could that possibly be framed as anything other than you exist in a civil war? It's just one that has not been translated to you. You had state governors who installed a president to rule over you that was not the rightful president.
I think it's so much bigger than that. And this is just like, there's going to be so many layers to this conversation as the story unfolds, because presidential thing is one level of this, but then when you start going down ballot and where they've stolen there too, like you have the Senate and the House and then governor races and Secretary of State's races and local races. These are people that for Judges. 4 years, that if we can prove, and not if we can, when we prove that they did this everywhere, completely changed the entire electoral map, and then the situation, I guess, the breakdown of the houses. We paid taxes for 4 years to elected officials that shouldn't be there. These people made laws that shouldn't have existed. We have a Supreme Court justice that shouldn't exist. Like, this impacts so much shit. How much money did people who weren't legitimately elected vote on to send overseas to Ukraine? How many billions of dollars have we sent overseas in the 4 years and ever since, and longer? Like, this is what's going to get people's mindset to be like, oh my gosh, like how much of this bullshit have we had to go through because they stole it? Like, the ramifications, and this is why you see the media freaking out and why they're so desperately trying to make sure we don't get to that point. And they're going to do the moving of the goalposts to, it was the safest, most secure election, to, okay, well, there was fraud, but there's, it wasn't outcome determinative. And then it's like, okay, well, it was just Georgia. that's just one state. He still wouldn't have been the president. That's why it's so important to get to the changing of the electoral college map, because then that opens the floodgates to every other conversation we need to have in this country.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I guess, the reason I'm thinking Civil War framing is not to be Tim Pool. I don't want a civil war. I'm saying if we get this, we've always fantasized about the idea of getting this kind of thing disclosed and proven publicly to the point where it's irrefutable, right? Completely irrefutable. Anybody who engages with the narrative will have to understand, hey, Georgia participated in an active insurrection against the American people. That is what this is. We talk about treason all the time. So if you've got state officials, the leaders of states, which are, we kind of get like numb to this being Americans, but half of our states are more powerful than most countries in Europe, never mind like in the rest of the world. It's a big, big, big deal if one of these states betrayed the United States. That's war footing. People go to war for much less than that. And I think in terms of normie translation layers, what this does is it puts, not the left, but it puts the normie sphere in a position, or anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, anti-this and that. It puts them on a footing where they essentially are going to have to come out and say, do you endorse, because you do all your memes in the retard sphere about insurrection against Trump and resist, and, you're part of the resistance, right? But all of that is just moral grandstanding. It's social, it's cultural. They don't like that the orange man's president, right? Imagine that you put that entire side of the zeitgeist in a position where they have to publicly endorse or deny the knowing and active treason of the United States by these various states. It kind of puts you in that line of demarcation where many normies are going to jump off of that train. And then you're going to basically have your avowed Marxists in this country not just have their stupid social opinions and their opinions about who should be the president, but actively saying, I am glad that my state participated in the theft of an election. And then people I don't know how constitutionists would feel about that, but how on earth are those motherfuckers then allowed to vote in United States elections from then on? We're concentrating on Somalis and other people like that, right? If you're an American and you publicly, knowingly advocate for the theft of an election, you should have your rights to vote completely stripped from you. Because how is that not treason on some level?
We can't even get the House to vote on the SAVE Act, bro. How are we going to get them to vote on the you shouldn't be voting in elections if you support election fraud act?
Well, I don't think any of this comes through Congress. So that's kind of
of course.
That's our baseline. But that's another thing we've talked about of, one thing I thought of earlier with the translation layers is it might be hopium, but as part of the reason Trump is slow rolling these things, I think I said this last week maybe, but the idea that he knows Congress is illegitimate and he wants them in there for as long as, because the longer an illegitimate Congress is in there that Trump knows is illegitimate, he could do whatever the fuck he wants. And maybe he wants that for the time being. And he'll bag him and tag him when he's good and done with him.
Yeah. I mean, again, I could understand and get behind and engage with the game theory of that. I think the morality of that, if the reason he's doing it is just to, might as well keep him in there as long as possible. I don't love that, because there are actual damages being done, and it really just depends on how far.
Congress, though, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends.
Yeah,
I think Congress,
depends what we believe.
They're feckless, they're worthless, but they are voting on sending money, and people are paying taxes to have their money just be stolen. Congress, they're coming out telling us and talking about all these stories of fraud, and then being like, it's taxes week, guys. All these posts from people. Last week was all oh my gosh, look at all the fraud in Somalia. And this week it's all this week we've saved you money on your taxes. Don't forget about this thing. Are you kidding me? You fucking grifters are gonna on 1 week tell me how fraudulent, the fraudulent things you do with my money, and then the next week remind me to give you my money. No, get out of here.
I filed my taxes today. I put my gimp suit on.
How dare you?
My ball gag.
How dare you? Did you tell
Don't forget about my child tax credit.
Did you tell G Money? I thought you followed him last week.
No, I was compiling it all. I officially requested to see whether I get boned or not. Usually I do. You cuck. You gotta prep for these things, right?
Whatever, man.
Soft disclosure for that.
Hell yeah. But yeah, man, I want to see if there's any other stories I had about Tulsi, because I felt like that was a good discussion, and I don't know, I don't really want to get into anything else tonight. I'm a little sleepy. Oh, I did think this story was fascinating. So the Trump administration, it was talking like they're building this East Wing, right? And the left is freaking out, trying to stop everything they do. And right now there's a lawsuit going on. And so they just filed a motion. And in this motion, I went through it. There's this crazy section in here. They're talking about all the reasons why they need to keep building out the East Wing. The Secret Service attested halting construction would imperil the president and others who live and work at the White House. The current open construction site, and this is in quotes, is in and of itself a hazard and complicates Secret Service operations. Then it goes on. This is the very juicy part. There are additional reasons described in detail in a supplemental classified declaration that halting construction will endanger national security and therefore impair the public interest. And I think the conspiracy theory surrounding about what they're doing in actuality underneath the East Wing, this is a tally mark on that side of the ledger. Like, this is interesting.
Yeah, you should probably. I think Chris will probably want to talk about this on Saturday, because I know he's been talking about the data center sort of theory here. There was a Substack that had blown up a few weeks ago about that whole idea of what sort of things they were doing there. I don't know. I mean, there might be more to it, but it's interesting. Some of these seemingly silly things Trump does on True Social like months back, then they start to get more to them over time, right? He's talking about the big, beautiful ballroom for a while. And I'm not saying that that's silly, but compared to trade wars and election fraud and everything, these are the things that kind of you scroll past on your feed. You're like, oh, that's nice, I guess. He's going to renovate the ballroom when he's announcing that 6 months ago. Then each month there's something else and something else. And again, to use that negative indicator with the media apparatus, why were they freaking out so much about this? And then the more these kinds of things come out, you start to kind of draw some gravity there. You're like, man, the media was very upset about Trump doing this project. And now we're learning that this project has national security directives. You might not believe that if that's the first you see of it. But when you then combine it with the fact that the protectorate has been after this project, it kind of lends credence to the idea that there's something really important to it. I have no idea what it is. I don't have a theory about what it is, but they seem to.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting stuff. That Substack, we'll have to find out. We'll talk about this on Saturday for sure. Yeah. I didn't even finish the quote from Trump, this clip.
Horrible corruption on elections, and the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take over.
But the Constitution says it should be states that administer elections, Mr. President.
Yeah, they can, you know what? They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly.
Are you open to negotiating on warrants when it comes to ICE? This is an ask from Senator Schumer. We're requiring search warrants for ICE and immigration.
Okay. Now they changed the subject too. Did you see the story of 700,000 or 700 Minnesota ICE agents that are like they're downsizing?
No, I did not.
Yeah, Tom Homan announced that they're like 700 ICE agents are going home. They got Minnesota to bend the knee and cooperate, so they don't need as many ICE agents there now.
Yeah.
So, but some people online are saying that the Trump administration
up, right?
capitulated.
Yeah. I saw them saying that last week. I mean, it's ridiculous. But by the way, speaking of Homan, and believe these things or not, but we've talked about one layer of the Epstein narrative and taking Trump at his word about, being annoyed by many of these narratives. One of the reasons we've floated, if you go down that path, is the idea that the Trump administration has done more to combat, stop, and prosecute human trafficking and child trafficking in particular than any administration ever, and that this whole narrative is overshadowing that. And to add to that, I think it was a couple of days ago, Homan once again, released, or at least disclosed, I think it was something like 120,000 children they said they found, immigrant children. The last I had seen that number, it was like 80,000, a couple months ago. But either way, take it for what with all these things. You've either got to take that or you leave it. But you can't have it both ways. You don't get to say, like, there's this criminal cabal on Epstein Island that Donald Trump is going after, but then Trump's border czar comes out and talks about the 120,000 kids that they've rescued from trafficking, and they have specifically talked about satanic, not just trafficking networks, they have specifically been disclosing satanic groups that are involved with the trafficking of these kids. So it's kind of crazy because, 10 years ago, and I was all the way down the Epstein rabbit hole, one of the real revelations there, or at least implications to people in the truth community who got really interested in that stuff, was the kind of dark occult things going on there that may or may not have been going on there. Now you've got DHS, or you've got the Trump administration saying it. Like, they're out here talking about these things, but in a totally different narrative, and nobody in the truth community wants to talk about it. So it's one of those interesting things where you're like, hey, yeah, it might be time to reevaluate, maybe taking Trump more seriously when he's talking about the Epstein stuff and saying, guys, my border czar just did a press conference where he told you we've rescued 120,000 kids this year, and you're talking about emails from a tip line.
And most of the emails these people are sharing are totally bullshit. We're going to talk about that Sunday, I thought, though.
Yeah, we are. That's a teaser for you. John's going to join me Sunday night. We're going to, after the Super Bowl, we're going to do a narrative.
A shorter narrative.
Yeah.
Talking about
4 or 5 hours tops.
The retards and the Epstein files.
Yeah.
It's crazy
We're
stuff.
going to make nobody upset.
No, not a single person.
Especially because the Patriots are obviously going to win because Patriots in control.
I don't know, man. Everybody seems to think the Seahawks are going to win.
I do too, but
I do not think the Patriots will be in control of the line of scrimmage, and I think that will be their downfall.
Well, we've got our excuses already ready-made. Drake May's got a bum shoulder. They're ahead of schedule. All these kinds of things. Also, my ultimate fallback is if Boston teams are winning sports championships, sports are real and have been cleaned up, and as soon as we lose, I can just be like, it was all a plan. Obviously, this is how they wanted the movie script to go. It's a great way to be a sports fan.
It's so funny because I've seen people on Twitter that are like, last year, the halftime show was completely Patriots in control. It was all messaging to us, like all the comms and everything. Yeah. But this year, I'm already seeing them saying like, well, maybe not with Bad Bunny, though. Maybe this year they have it.
The bad guys are resisting Trump with the Super Bowl that they were
the one thing they have left.
Of. So who was in charge of Super Bowl narrative security that like screwed that up between the last one and this one?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Wait for the score decodes at halftime.
Probably Ed Martin. That's probably why they fired him.
Yeah.
Ed Martin.
What you people have done to me. That was a Q person. I've written so many Q articles. Look what you're doing to me.
It's not a Q thing. We've said this. It's not a Q thing.
I know it's not.
It's a Q. It's like 10 people who happen to be Q.
It's like that's our word. I can do the black thing. I feel like we should start doing that.
There you go.
Like Quigga. Or something, like
there you go.
You're not allowed to say that. That's our word. You appropriated the Q movement. They did. They culturally with a Q appropriated the Q drops.
Misappropriated.
No, they culturally appropriated it.
Misappropriated.
We were a whole culture.
We need to use misappropriation in there anyway. But how about we go through boosts?
Okay. We could.
Unless you have anything else you desperately need to talk about. Dude, I know you're afraid of sharks. Do you use a shark vacuum?
I'm not afraid of sharks. I just respect that they can eat me.
Okay.
I do have a shark vacuum in my basement.
Does it work?
But I don't really use it.
We got a shark vacuum. We waited till after like Christmas and like waiting for a deal. We did the reason, and by we, my girlfriend did all the research. She looked into it and everything. We went and got it. It was on sale. It was like supposed to be this great vacuum. Had it for less than a month, maybe about a month. Thing already doesn't work.
Is it corded or cordless?
Corded. And
I'm thinking about getting a corded vacuum because my cordless one is a little bitch.
Dude, if you need it corded, you can have mine.
I've got a how do you pronounce it? Meal? The Germans. Over-engineered nonsense.
That's what I
was going to get a corded one.
I need a corded over-engineered nonsense. The freaking spinner won't work.
Does it have a bag in it? Does it have one of those bags?
No, you just dump it out, like one of those things. But I did the research. I ordered these like new micro switch things. I took the damn, and this is another thing, vacuums. Like you need specialty security bits to take those damn things apart. But I did all that. Took it apart. Is it
your girlfriend's hair?
No, it had nothing to do with that. It's for whatever reason, when you turn the vacuum on, the vacuum still works. It sucks, but the thing won't spin. And everybody's like, it's just this little switch. It's not hair. It's not clogged. There's nothing stuck in it. Like we barely use the thing.
I had to do vacuum surgery monthly with all those tools because this woman wilding about my house.
Yeah, it's not that
pulling
though.
Strands of red rope out of the vacuum.
It's not the hair stuck in. There's like no hair on it. It's barely been used, and we don't have that much carpet.
That's bullshit.
It just won't fucking spin, and I am just. This is infuriating me because like I just bought this damn thing. My parents are still using the vacuum. They've had their vacuum longer than I've been alive. They've been using that thing for like 50 years, and I can't have my vacuum for a month. Like, what the hell is wrong with this? And I did a post today on it. Like, we can land a rocket on Earth, like launch to space, reuse it. AI is taking over. We have like Neuralink, like people's brains are coming back to life and they can walk again. But fucking vacuum cleaners and appliances in your house can't last for more than a month or a year or whatever.
Thanks, Obama. And where's Trump? Where's Trump on this?
Yeah, that's not right. I did not vote for. I voted for longer lasting appliances.
Mm-hmm. It is bullshit.
It's terrible.
My vacuum. You get a new vacuum. I spent like $600 or $700 on this cordless thing, and
$700.
It was crazy. Yeah, I was like, this is be the only vacuum I ever buy again. It was just like this lithium battery vacuum cleaner. This was a couple of years ago, and it's been limping along since like week 3.
That's crazy.
That I bought it. So
it's a period. We're in the wrong business, man. We need to get into the vacuum cleaning business because apparently it doesn't matter what you put it. It doesn't even have to suck anything out because they just buy it and then nothing happens.
And then your wife gets in your ear like, oh, we could. It's not really sucking. And it's like, well, neither are you. But
that's a separate conversation, BB.
Yeah, that's a totally separate thing.
That's a Valentine's Day conversation.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just had to
vacuums
get
are
it
a
off my
problem.
chest.
I agree. I've been having vacuum problems myself. It's tough. I bet there's a lot of guys out there who didn't want to talk about it who've been thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
A husband was walking through the living room with his wife who's been going on and on about the Power Hour for years, and he's never paid it any mind until the last 5 minutes. He's like, that's totally right.
So, somebody just said, so what's this channel? What's the subject matter of this channel? We're a vacuum cleaner review channel. All we do is when we talk about Power Hour, we're talking about power vacuums.
Right.
And this is what's funny. When I posted on Twitter, everybody has an opinion like, oh, my Shark is amazing. My Dyson is the way to go. You should spend, somebody's like, you got to get this vacuum. It's $3,000. They offer you payment plans, but it'll last you forever. Like if I'm paying $3,000 for a vacuum, that thing better take me to Mars too, along with Elon. Holy shit.
My one funny thing about my vacuum is my son randomly, ever since he was like 6 months old, chases it around. It has like a light in the front. And I thought he'd be terrified of it. Like most kids are like, get that away from me. It's a loud, noisy vacuum cleaner. He chases it around and tries to like grab it.
Have you bought him a toy vacuum yet? My kids love those things.
He's a weird kid. He does not like toys. He likes just exploring, opening. His toys are opening all of our cabinets and taking every single thing out and putting it on the floor.
Well, dude, what you need to do is get like a mini handheld vacuum thing that's super light that he can use, like that actually works.
He knows the real thing. He knows the meal. He's like, I want that spinny light thing.
Well, get a spinny light thing on a real vacuum, and then
he'll know it's a toy. If he knows it's a toy, he's not interested.
I'm saying like get him an actual vacuum that he'll play with, while it's like dual-hatted. He will be occupied and cleaning your house in the process.
He just wants the vacuum I'm using.
Oh, well, whatever.
He's like that.
Okay, well, never mind. You just derailed the whole show. I had this great idea. You probably could have got somebody in the chat to buy one for you if you.
I did have a lot of tire drama. Speaking of random dad drama, I got new tires last week, which bankrupted me. And then I get home, and the next day, like, these are nice tires. They're Falcon Wild Peaks. I've never even bought nice tires before. I get these nice tires, put them on the Lesbaru, get home, and the next day I lose like 5 psi in one of the tires. I'm like, well, that's weird. Maybe the gauge was off yesterday, so I go fill them up. I lose 5 psi overnight again. I call the tire place, and I'm like, you guys fucked up this install. Something's wrong here. They're like, no, it's not. Turns out it was, and they totally fucked it up. So I had to take it back. So I had to have 2 tire appointments this last week.
Wow. You want to get even more pissed off? Check this out. Maybe you saw this. Anna Polina Luna.
Oh my God, this bitch. Was that today?
Yeah, 5 hours ago. The nation states fundamental international partnership, blah, blah.
Turning Point USA. There you go.
See. We stand for the sovereign rights of nations against the authoritarian overreach of transnational institutions, members
Sounds
of
like
government from around the
script
world.
From Rise of Tire.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you know, we've been saying for years, guys, it's not just sour grapes. Some of these NGOs literally just take what we talk about and rebrand them to be establishment things. And yeah. Sovereign Alliance is a lot catchier, APL.
Yeah, then, and also, like, notably, the Board of Peace, right? Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, this is the Sovereign Alliance, the Board of Peace. So how funny is it that Trump comes out with, hey, we're going to do a Board of Peace now. These are all the members. And then Anna Polina Luna's like, oh, well, I'm going to put on a conference. We're going to call it this. But it's going to be kind of talking about the same thing. She's such a grifter.
You're not supposed to use that word, John. I've been reprimanded strongly for using that word.
By who?
They're no longer among us.
They died?
No. They're not at Badlands anymore.
I'm calling people grifters?
Yeah.
I don't remember that
It really upsets grifters when you say that.
It really oh, that's right. It really upsets grifters when you call out grifters.
Yeah, when you say that they're grifting.
I see what you're saying. I got you.
Do you even know the definition?
Let's not get into this. Stop doing that, Phoebe. Stop it. Okay, let's go to the boosts. Which, by the way, guys, if you weren't familiar, if you're new to the channel, not only can you leave a rant live during the stream, which we're going to read it here shortly, but if you're not watching live, you're watching on replay, you can also still support the stream in a way that we will read on air by going to badlandsmedia.tv and clicking on boosts. And it's another great way to support the channel. Remember, we are not owned by any corporation. We are owned by, I guess, me, but we owned ourselves. And we are fully supported by you guys through your donations live during the show and rants, or by subscribing either on Rumble or Substack. It's you guys, and we rely on you guys. So we appreciate the support anytime we can get it.
Yeah, if you go into any of our domains, you're not going to see any of our sponsors secretly own us, which is
we already covered that. Let's not go back into that.
Just the people need to know. 1027JS sent $20 over tonight and said, "Thanks, guys."
Thank you, Joe. Fellow North Dakotan, appreciate you. If you got any vacuum suggestions, I'd love to know what you use that survives the climate up here.
Exactly. Everybody have a vacuum suggestion next time you talk to us. There's some of these Badlander ones. I don't know how many of those.
Yeah. There's any recent ones?
Yeah. Will Man became a Badlander for $50. Thank you for Why We Vote. Try not to ever miss it. Gateway Magas became a Badlander. This was a Badlands Story Hour 1. I read that one last night, actually. Carrying the Fire 7 became a Badlander. Recently became a Badlander, but my credit card expired. None of my boosts are going through. Just trying again. Well, it looks like it worked. So thank you very much. Thank you guys for signing up for that. It helps everybody out. Funky Joe Medina sent over that, what's that guy's name again? Govea. I want to give him credit for giving credit. Robert Govea, who gave CanCon and Badlands a shout out after doing his show about the article. So thank you for the rant, and
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you to that guy. The new crew. Any truth to Governor Kemp's daughter's boyfriend being killed by a car bomb? Some point out this is when Kemp did a 180 on investigating election fraud in Georgia.
Yeah, this was such a hot topic back in the day. I mean, it's total speculation as of now, anyway, whether or not that's the case. But I mean, I think it's compelling. Sure is interesting. He seemed to do like a 180 right after that happened. So I don't know. It's hard to ignore data points like that.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Hey, if these are the types of things where some of these people, some of the quote unquote deep state involved in the steal, were leveraged into it, at some point, pick up the phone, right? Like, it's not going to save you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mad Dog, or it might save you if you pick up the phone. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's extenuating circumstances with these things, but if you don't pick up the phone, it's not happening. Mad Dog 3553, fired up to see you guys live tonight. Hope you were fired up the whole time.
Thank you, Mad Dog.
Hal Turner sent us that 50 to make up for his, however he gravely upset us earlier.
Yeah, he didn't upset us at all. He's just like,
oh, okay.
Guys, I am sitting on stacks of cash.
Oh,
and
nice.
So we're just going to start referring to Hal as our pimp.
Nice.
Cash man Hal.
He's got a firm hand, but he's not without cause.
I guess I don't know where you're going with that.
When you're keeping your women on the corner in line, they respect the pimp with a strong pimp hand.
Yeah.
But not one who abuses the pimp hand, right?
Yeah. Hal does not. If you're asking me if Hal's abusive, I do not know him personally, right. So I cannot comment on that, but I don't think so.
Like if Veronica shows up with a shiner, you know she'd been messing around, right? Was her count down the week before? Were her hours off? These are people. This is what women respect. Dr. Rick 1776, $20. This insightful, intelligent, sober-minded discussion is exactly what I've come to expect from Badlands. It's so funny because when we get a rant like that, I'm like, it's either the most earnest thing ever, or it's just like
that guy's a doctor. So I'm assuming that's earnest, but he definitely probably left that rant before the vacuum discussion.
Right.
Or maybe he did. Maybe the vacuum discussion was the intelligent, insightful, and sober-minded conversation he was looking for.
That's our brand, Dr. Vac. I'm sure nobody's thought of it.
Dr. Vac.
Except for Anna Luna.
Our brand is Bad Vax. Everything is bad. Bad Vac.
And for the people in the chat being like, oh, maybe you should be flattered when these people in positions of power kind of steal your ideas. It's not just about the idea theft, even though that bothers me to no end. It's because you can't assume good intentions when these unelected bureaucrats are rebranding your ideas, or these journalists in mainstream media outlets, right? There's a real threat assessment that needs to be done with these things. To John's point about the Board of Peace, okay, yeah, I came up with the term sovereign alliance. I certainly didn't come up with the idea that Trump might be working with these other countries. But when you rebrand something like that away from not only what a lot of people have been talking about in the MAGA movement for years, but from what Trump is codifying, to your point, you've got to ask the question, why are you trying to rebrand this?
And how are you trying to pervert it?
Yeah, exactly. Just like MAGA itself, or Q itself, a movement that many people at Badlands believe in, including me, or did. And, these things can be turned around if you're not paying attention. We have some, I don't think we should read this one. This person's a grifter.
Yeah, speaking of needing a backhand slap to keep in line.
Ash 1776, is it weird? The road of Puerto Rico happened last spring, and we didn't hear about it until now?
What is this road of Puerto Rico? Is there only one road in Puerto Rico? No, she did follow it up in the chat and said it was a raid. Like, why did the raid? It's a good point. Like, they asked us, and by us and they, I mean Puerto Rico asked the United States to come look at these machines, according to the story, and what CanCon confirmed. Like, yeah, that happened, but nobody said a word about it until now. And I think it's because they're weaponizing the narrative, and not in a good way. They're trying to, because it's bullshit. According to CanCon and what he heard from his DNI source, the story's bullshit. They weren't looking into Venezuela stuff. They were just purely looking into whether or not the machines could be, hacked or whatever, doing an assessment for them. They weren't looking for Venezuelan election fraud or see if there was fraud. Even we don't even know. But
that's why they didn't find it.
His DNI source said that the story's bullshit and told him the story was coming. So it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, they were looking for Venezuelans in Fulton County. All they got was a bunch of sassy black ladies.
Yeah.
So they're like, there's no election fraud here.
Crazy.
The D-Mob, normally I don't get to see the shows live because of the time difference to Alaska. Still trying to figure out the boost thing.
Oh, thanks, D-Mob.
Yeah, you go to badlandsmedia.tv/boost. You can pick whichever show you want to support, or you can be a Badlander and support the whole company. But thanks for the rant either way.
Also, real quick before we get to, New Prue says, make vacuums suck again. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
That'll be the tagline of our Bad Vacuums brand. Speaking of, I don't remember why I'm going to say speaking of, because I don't think we're speaking of this, but anyway, conference is coming up, guys.
Yeah.
April. Badlandsmedia.tv/events. We're going to be in Nashville, and it's going to be a great time. We're going to have a full house, I think. A lot of Badlanders going to be there. It's going to be a fun time. So,
yeah,
and
never been
cook it
there.
a little
I'm looking
spicy.
forward to it.
Shipwreck's been getting a lot of heat lately, and I think this is going to be the first conference she comes to. So maybe there'll be some lively back and forth and debates, as usual, highly frictional. So make sure you guys get your tickets.
Well, you know what? I should have expected it, but I was very pleased with the audience in Florida. Not just because they're Badlanders, but because that was extremely frictional in terms of a lot of our topics. And the audience was like, they loved it. You know, they were frictional with us. They were frictional with each other. And we talked about this at the time. That kind of became the theme that wasn't planned. But I think not only has there been a sifting in the info war, there's been a sifting in the Badlands. And there's, the power level is higher, I would say.
For sure.
People that are coming to these events, like nobody's being a pussy about their opinions. And that's what we need.
The reason we sell lotion is because we're so frictional, guys. That is not by accident. But anyway. Awesome. Well, fun show, guys. We'll be doing this again on Sunday. I'll be back on with them after the Super Bowl for a brief little narrative discussion. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow on the Daily Herold at 1 p.m. Eastern. And I don't have an outro ready. Shit.
Wow.
Is there anything
really messed up?
I already played the Bitchfield thing. I just can't not call him Bitchfield after he did that. That's so dumb. So annoying.
I was going to play a Boston SNL clip last week, but it was too long.
Let's check the Storm has arrived, because he's usually jacked full of clips, but he's got something for us. Do we want to watch a full 48-minute interview of Trump? Is no show? Probably not.
I have a 6-minute SNL skit.
6 minutes? Which skit is it?
It's about the Bostonians during the Revolutionary War.
Go for it. Oh, I think I played. This is a good one. Go for it.
Okay. I haven't seen it in some time, so I don't know if it's good or not. But
I think I've played this as an outro before, if it's what I'm thinking of. So we'll do it. Awesome. Appreciate it.